Federation, which is a chapter of the National Wildlife Federation. So we're the smallest, and then it gets bigger from there. Oh, and we have a wonderful website where we post all of our stuff, and we have a great archive of everything we've done and are doing. And then we do have a Facebook that we're pretty active on, and if you want to keep up with our meetings and things like that, that's the best place to follow us and get updates. If you don't want your video on our recording, make sure to turn that off, and please remember to mute your microphone so we don't get any weird feedback on the recording. So a couple of our signature programs, we do a lot of different things. So if Hunters Feet Cabarrus County is not your thing, we do Kids in Nature, we do Trees for Trash and Adopt a Stream are kind of similar. We do native plant sales, which we will have one coming up at the end of this month in early May. So be on the lookout for that. We have a couple pollinator demonstration gardens, and we also do try to get yards, schools, and businesses in the Concord area certified through the National Wildlife Federation's Community Wildlife Habitat program. So we do a lot of different things, and we would love for anybody to join us on one of our things that we do. If you want more information about any of these things, there's a page on our website for all of them. So check it out there. Our May program, which will be our last regular program until September, is on May the 4th at 6:30 as well. And we'll have Meg Fensel from Sustain Charlotte. She's going to speak on the 17 UN sustainability goals. So that should be pretty cool, and how they're trying to achieve them. We also have a couple upcoming outings in April. So this one on April 17th is Saturday. We're doing Adopt a Stream. We do this twice a year. We'll meet at Clearwater Artist Studio at 9 a.m. It shouldn't go too long past 11, I would think. We've been doing this for a while, so every time it usually gets better, but you never actually know. So with the buckets and bags and gloves and pickers are provided by the city, so feel free to join us there. And then on April 29th at 6:30, I will be leading an introduction to the iNaturalist app. It's a great app if you don't have it. If you already have it, I'm going to also talk about the City Nature Challenge, which will go on this year. It'll be a 3-day event starting the day after I do my presentation. So if you want to learn a little more about that and why it's important and how you can participate, join us on the 29th. And I will let you introduce our speaker, Michael, if you would like to.
All right. Well, good evening, fellow Concord Wildlife Alliance members and guests. I have the honor of introducing our guest speaker for this evening, and she is June Blotnick. And she is the Executive Director of Clean Air Carolina, CAC, a statewide nonprofit that combines education, research, advocacy to promote educational justice, address climate change, and restore clean air across North Carolina. June has led the organization since 2005, creating innovative programs and partnerships designed to raise awareness about air pollution and advocate for a stronger air protections needed to improve public health. These programs include Clean Air for Kids, MAHA, which is Medical Advocates for Healthy Air, Air Keepers Science, and the North Carolina Climate Ambassadors. CAC's public policy and legal advocacy initiatives promote rulemaking and policy changes that accelerate North Carolina's transition to a C, which is Clean Energy Economy. June also coordinates the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Climate Leaders, a stakeholders group advising the city of Charlotte on implementation of their SEEP, or Strategic Energy Action Plan, which seeks to reduce carbon emissions from the city operations and ultimately throughout the city. Just recently, Clean Air Carolina was chosen as one of the top 10 organizations to receive an ACLA, America Climate Leadership Award, by Eco America for the successful work accomplished by the climate leaders. And with that, I'd like to turn the meeting over to our speaker. Take it away, June.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Michael. I appreciate being invited here. And I wanted to start just by congratulating your organization for being certified as a community wildlife habitat. That's a huge effort. And, you know, I'm just here in Charlotte, thought about getting my neighborhood certified, and we have a lot of members here, but I couldn't imagine what it would be for community wildlife, so congratulations. And we can go ahead and start the slides. Alrighty, great, and we can move to the first slide, although Michael did mention a lot about our programs. You can go there. And yes, so we're a nonprofit organization. We were started by volunteers in Charlotte back in 2002. And I was hired in 2005 as the first paid staff person. So I've been with the organization all along. And our mission statement is that we advocate for the health of all North Carolinians by pursuing equitable and collaborative solutions that address climate change and air pollution. And we really are a little different from other environmental groups because air pollution is really a public health issue. So we lead with health and science. But we do work on climate change initiatives across the state. And as Michael mentioned, we have the North Carolina Climate Ambassador Training, which is about a 3-hour training for people who are interested in speaking out and taking action on climate change. And our Charlotte-Mecklenburg Climate Leaders is open to everyone. We have people from Concord that come to those monthly meetings. So we can move on from there. Next slide. So I wanted to talk a little bit about air pollution's impact on health. A lot of people, especially here in North Carolina, our air pollution is not that visible. There are other cities that are much more polluted in regions, and a lot of our pollution in the form of particle pollution, well, very small particle pollution, and ozone, actually, ground level ozone is actually an invisible gas. So in terms of its impact on health, it really is a cradle to grave impact on everyone's lives. Even women who are pregnant and who live near major sources of air pollution can give birth early and have low birth weight babies. Of course, children's lungs are still developing, and kids that grow up in air polluted areas have problems with poor lung development. And so that affects all kinds of health issues. And then with adults, we have lung cancer, stroke, heart disease is a big one, as well as asthma, and then other health issues listed there. Next slide. And this chart just explains that for the leading causes of death in North Carolina, air pollution contributes to three of those. And I'm going to try to move this thing so I can see the whole slide. So air pollution is linked to actually 4 out of 5 of the leading causes of death in North Carolina, which surprised me as I learned more about air pollution's impact on health. So it's a very serious public health problem. Next slide. So I wanted to update you on what air quality was like in the Charlotte region. And so there are two slides here. This is on ground level ozone pollution. And so when ozone is up high, it's good. It protects us from ultraviolet rays, but when it's down low, it's the same chemical compound, but when it's down low, it's not good to breathe. So in Mecklenburg County, and in the region really as a whole, the 7-county region, when I took this job, we were not meeting, our air quality was not meeting the federal health-based standards. So you can see on this chart from Mecklenburg air quality from 1983, and it really took till 2020, that was only last year or so, we dipped down in 2017, but we really didn't meet the federal standard until just really a few years ago. So our ozone levels have been high, and that's a serious, serious problem. Right now, we're pretty much on the line. So we really have to be careful of ozone pollution levels. Ozone is not emitted from cars or vehicles or smokestacks, but what is emitted from those are volatile organic compounds and nitrogen oxides. And when they mix with heat and sunlight, that's how ozone's formed. So it's generally a summertime issue, and the ozone season, because of climate change, has been expanded from now March through October. So we're about right on the line for ozone pollution, so we have to watch that. Next slide is particle pollution, and particle pollution comes in all sizes. You might think of it as what you see coming out of a diesel truck. And the stuff that comes out of diesel trucks is bad, for sure, but your body can cough a lot of those particles out. They're larger particles. It's the ultrafine particles that you can't see, called PM 2.5, that gets into your body and bloodstream and even can cross into the brain and cause all kinds of problems. It's hard for your body to get rid of these. And so particle pollution, right now, we're meeting the federal standard, which is a good thing. The problem is the federal standards aren't always the strongest to protect health, which is the case for both of these pollutants. So we continue to work hard to reduce pollution sources. Next slide. I was going to talk a little bit about two programs, and I'm going to move through these quickly, that you might be interested in. These are hands-on science programs. Michael really wanted us to be able to do something hands-on, and we didn't make it happen, but I did want to let you know about these programs, and then talk a little bit about wildlife and climate impacts. So we have a program called Air Keepers, and it started in Charlotte and it's spread now statewide. We have some air keepers at Rowan Cabarrus Community College, as well as the town of Harrisburg. And air keepers are individuals or organizations that are monitoring PM 2.5 or particle pollution. Next slide. And I just wanted to show you, we did a program at Cannon School with some kids, and they took some air beam monitors, and these are mobile monitors that you can walk around and map out what kind of air you were breathing. And this is a screenshot of one of their trips in the bus lot. So I think you can see it's not all green. To the left of the top of the slide where it's near the trees, it's green, it's green, but I think depending on if the buses were on or whether they were idling, that's when you start seeing yellow and orange. So that was just a good activity for the kids to do there. Next slide. So the thing that changed everything for air monitoring about 4 years ago is the technology. And all of a sudden you can buy for a couple $100 portable air sensors that you can carry with you. We've had bike commuters carry them on their way to work. And then the one at the bottom right is the purple air monitor, and that's a stationary monitor. And they make them now to actually monitor air quality inside your home. But all of our monitors across the state are affixed to houses or buildings outside. So this is a picture of, actually both of these employees have left the organization, but this is quite an old picture with Maddie Marshall of the Historic West End in Charlotte, who's monitoring her air. Next slide. And the reason that was Maddie Marshall is because we chose to start the Air Keepers organization program in the historic West End of Charlotte. And that's the part of Charlotte where Johnson C. Smith University is located. And it is along Beatties Ford Road, for those of you that know Charlotte. And the reason we chose that is because it's surrounded by freeways, and transportation is a major source of air pollution. And we wanted to see if the levels were different than, say, South Charlotte. And this slide actually is a slide about environmental justice. And many communities of color are located near sources of pollution because of historic government policies. And so as you can look at this picture, you can see the historic West End is in the orange boundary triangle at the top. Myers Park, South Charlotte's in the green. And all those dots you see are actually permitted facilities. Could be gas stations, it could be, there's a quarry out there, could be industries in the area that have to get permits to pollute. So you can see most of those are around the outskirts of downtown and what we call the Crescent in Charlotte. So just for those of you that aren't familiar with environmental justice, it means no group of from operations or policies pursued by industry or government. And what happens is these, obviously, communities are more impacted by sources of pollution. And so this impacts their health. Next slide. So this is a picture of Genesis Park neighborhood on the right. On the left, you see I-77. So before I-77 was built, this was one community, and then the interstate split it. And so you have people living along there that have more exposure to the pollution. And this picture was taken before they put a wall up when they were doing the expansion. Next slide. And as a result of the monitoring that our air keepers did in the historic West End district, they presented a report to the Mecklenburg County Commission, and the commission responded by putting a federally regulated monitoring station in the community, and that's the picture you see on the right, to take regular round-the-clock levels to monitor particle pollution. And so that was a big win for the community. And then they thought, what else can we do? You know, we know the air is not always great here. What else can we do? And so they have the idea to start the historic West End Green District. And you can go ahead and advance the slides. One of the things they want to do is do some strategic tree planting, because trees are great at cleaning the air. And so the picture on the left is a picture of that same photo you just saw before, after all the construction was done. And their wall is built But the EPA has done lots of research on vegetation to protect communities that are living near roadways. And we spoke with one of their scientists, and he suggested that trees can be planted on the other side of the wall, which is what the other picture is, a rendering, if we could plant more trees to further block pollution. So something they're thinking about, and just adding more vegetation to the district in general. Next slide. And these are some of the reasons, because trees have a lot of power that we don't usually think about, but they do improve air quality by filtering out dust and other pollutants. In cities, and even I'm sure in Concord, you might have some areas that experience the urban heat island effect. And that's when sunlight is absorbed by lots of buildings and concrete. And so trees can help provide shade and reduce the amount of sunlight that reaches those surfaces. They also give off oxygen, and of course, the good news for you all, and me too, is they provide food protection and homes for many birds and mammals. And they also reduce the amount of stormwater runoff. Next slide. So this is a fun fact, is that a mature tree absorbs carbon dioxide at a rate of 48 pounds per year. And you know, air pollution is pollution, but it's pretty light. And so a pound of air pollution or carbon dioxide is a whole lot. So that's what they're doing with just one tree per year. And in 1 year, an acre of forest can absorb twice the CO2 produced by the average car's annual mileage, if you're not driving an electric car, I might add. So trees are so important for public health reasons and environmental reasons. Next slide. I wanted to share some information with you about ozone bio monitoring gardens, which we've been working on for probably the last 7 or 8 years. And with the pandemic, we've had to sort of shut down the program, even though the schools that we work with are still maintaining those gardens. And we actually partnered with the Wildlife Federation probably 7 years ago to do some to combine the wildlife habitat gardens and pollinator gardens with ozone garden monitoring. So next slide. And we've also added pollinator garden plants to the ozone gardens. So what this is there are special plants that are bioindicators, or they will show damage when they're exposed to ozone pollution. So it's a way to teach kids about air pollution and how, even though they can't see the pollution, it's in the air and it's affecting plants as well as them. And there's actually a separate standard for ozone's impacts on agriculture. So there's an ozone standard for people and an ozone standard for agriculture, because it can be very destructive. And so these are some kids at Druid Hills in their little gardens. And then next slide, I think we have the garden at the governor's school out near the university. So they come in all sizes. Next slide. And this is just some kids at Shamrock Elementary in Charlotte looking for signs of damage on cut leaf coneflower. Next slide. And then we also have some ozone gardens around the Charlotte area. This is at Little Sugar Creek Greenway along Westfield Drive in Charlotte. And we also have one at the Carolina Raptor Center. And you might wonder why. And it's sort of directly related to raptors. I wanted to just share a story with you. there was a public hearing many years ago to get public comment on reducing mercury levels. And mercury is emitted from coal plants. And at least it used to be more emitted until they put scrubbers on them. But I heard a story from the director at that time of the Carolina Raptor Center talking about an eagle a bald eagle that was brought in, and it couldn't stand, and they did all kinds of tests on it, and they finally realized it had mercury poisoning. And it was because when the pollution comes out of coal plants, it gets into the air and it gets, it falls and it gets into the water. And the fish absorb that and convert it to methyl mercury, which is a neurological, pollutant really when it gets into your system. So pregnant women have to be careful about eating fish that might have absorbed mercury. And so that's what they found. And it was like, I had never connected those dots between coal burning power plants and raptors. But we all know in all nature, everything's connected. So that's why we have an ozone garden out there at the Raptor Center to just raise awareness about air pollution. Next slide. Ooh, that is not supposed to be the next slide. Boy, I am really having trouble. Go back to that. Okay. Well, let me show you this slide. This was supposed to be my last slide. These are different ways to engage in clean air and climate advocacy work, and I really apologize. I'm just having all kinds of problems with my slideshow tonight. Actually, go back a slide and let me just leave that on there for now. The other things that I was going to mention had to do with wildlife and climate change. And the North Carolina Wildlife Federation, and for that matter, the National Wildlife Federation, has been a real leader when it comes to action on climate change. I found a couple reports. One was by Defenders of Wildlife, and it was how climate change is affecting wildlife in North Carolina. And so that's one good report. And then the National Wildlife Federation put out a report on, I think it was just generally how climate change affected wildlife, fish, and birds. And that was, some of these reports are sort of old, so that means that those people working in the wildlife area have really been on top of climate change, because it does impact so many of what we've got in here in terms of species here in North Carolina, because of the change in the heat levels, the weather patterns, things like that. And then the other resource I found was from the Audubon Society, North Carolina Audubon Society, and they had a whole list of birds in North Carolina that were vulnerable to the impacts of climate change. And I think the slide that I picked out had 28 species, but if you look at North Carolina Audubon Society's website, you can get more information about that. But as I said before, in nature, everything's connected. So anything we humans are putting into the air or the water is going to get in the plants and the animals. And so organizations like the Wildlife Federation, North Carolina Wildlife Federation. Clean Air Carolina has been partnering with them almost since the whole time that I've been with the organization. And so Tim Guestwicki, your state director, and I are colleagues, and I've been just really impressed with the leadership of the organization. We can go ahead to the last slide there. And these are just some different ways, if you're interested in getting involved in improving air quality and addressing climate. These are some things you can take advantage of. You can certainly go to our website, cleanaircarolina.org, support our work through a donation, or just sign up for our monthly e-newsletter. We just send one e-newsletter out a month, and you'll learn everything about what we're doing and opportunities for engagement. We are sponsoring, with many other groups, a Greening Our Faith Community Summit on May 21st and 22nd. And that will be virtual. So if you're a member of a faith community and you have a green team, or you're thinking about starting a green team, or if you've already done some things at your congregation and want to learn what others are doing in the region and really across North Carolina, we encourage you to register for that. And that is a link that you can copy and put in your newsletter if you'd like. We will have some pre-conference tours. That one will be at a community garden at Chapel of Christ the King in Charlotte, and then one will be a rooftop solar tour at Myers Park Baptist Church. And all of this is free, and you can you'll be able to get more information on our website soon, but the link to the registration does work. We also have North Carolina Climate Ambassador trainings that I mentioned earlier. We haven't set the date yet for that, but if you're really interested in learning more about climate change, learning about what's happening in North Carolina at the state level, or in Winston-Salem or Asheville, or in other communities around the state, actions they're taking, this is a good, I think you'd be really interested in taking. It's just a 3-hour training. Well, it's now 4 hours because we put breaks in there, and it's split up over 2 days. For those of you in Cabarrus County, one of our climate ambassadors is Ken Griffin, who some of you may know. He's a local architect, and he has been organizing really since last fall around climate change issues, and has just started a group called Sustainable Living Advocates. And the goal of this group is really to live low carbon lifestyles and to share information on what each other's doing. So that's a good resource out here in Cabarrus County. And then these are some personal things you can do as well: buy an electric car or a hybrid car. I've got an old, well, it's not too old, but it's, I guess, 3 years old, a Leaf, Nissan Leaf, which is fully electric. It gets about 120 miles to a fully charge, so I just use it around town. And then we also have a hybrid electric, which is an ionic, and it gets about 30 miles. So, you know, if you're driving it around all day and it's fully charged, and you don't go more than 30 miles, you come home, you plug it in, you go again the next day. So again, it's a car to use around town, but it's great to not have any pollution already driving those around. A couple things about lawn services. You know, I know everybody that is working from home is probably, at least here in Charlotte, we didn't know our neighbors had so many lawn services, and so those leaf blowers are really noisy. So we're trying to promote electric lawnmowers and leaf blowers, and going with a lawn service company that uses them. Solar panels are out there. We put some in probably about 6 years ago. The good thing about solar right now is Duke Energy has a solar rebate program, and it's for individuals or churches or other nonprofits that might own their building. And so this is really something to take advantage of, and all the solar companies will do a free estimate and check your house out for the angle of the sun and those kinds of things. So would be really, if you want more information about that, you can go to Duke Energy's website. Just Google Duke Energy Solar Rebate Program. And then the usual buy energy efficient appliances, turn off those lights, and cut down on meat consumption. Our cows and other animals actually contribute a lot of methane to the atmosphere, and so that's why that one's on there. You learned something tonight, and again, I apologize for the technological problems, but I'm happy to answer any questions. I think somebody might have put something in the chat, but I'm not sure. Oh, great. Ken Griffin's a member of your board. Not surprising. I'm glad I was able to hold him in his workup. Ilsa, I'm interested to know if battery operated garden equipment is acceptable. Yeah. As long as it doesn't have an engine, a regular fossil fuel type engine. If it's battery or electric is fine. Yeah, that's great. Absolutely. Anything you heard of that you were surprised to learn?
I have a question.
Sure.
Thank you. What were some of the plants that were the bioindicators? I'm not sure if you named the species, but if you could
the
share
one
that.
was, I can get the species names, but the common names are cutleaf coneflower. That's they're tall. They look like tall daisies. And then common milkweed, actually, which is for monarch butterflies. That's another one. It has, common milkweed definitely, and then even a certain variety of black-eyed Susans. And so we've seen the most evidence of ozone damage on common milkweed and then cutleaf coneflower, for sure, yeah. And so those are great. And like I said, Mary Stabel, who was our Clean Air for Kids manager, she added a lot of pollinator plants into those gardens as well, because she's a master gardener and we love pollinators.
Yeah, I just love how a lot of those kind of fall in line with the plants that we're like promoting for like wildlife and all the pollinators. So that's a really great comparison. Thanks. Yeah. And for people that have gardens, or if you have pollinator gardens that you're sponsoring or hosting, you can always add some ozone garden plants or some cutleaf coneflowers or milkweeds. It spreads, but cutleaf coneflowers, and then you can just put a little educational signage saying, this is an ozone sensitive plant, and we're working to protect our air quality or something. So we'd be happy to help you with any of that.
I have a quick question, June.
Yeah.
How would you, I remember hearing before that Charlotte was kind of, the air quality was kind of poor because it kind of got stuck here. Like, how would we rate to some of the other cities, around us, maybe in, Raleigh or some of the other ones that might be comparable?
Yeah, so when I took the job in 2005, there were 22 counties in North Carolina that didn't meet the federal ozone standard. and they were all pretty much along the interstate. So
Yes.
the geography, I think I remember hearing that as well, but so that was really pretty much along the interstate, and then a lot's happened in 15 years. So in 2002, our bipartisan legislature, God bless them, had the foresight to pass a law called the Clean Smokestacks Act, because at that time we had over 14 or 15 coal plants around the state, and they did not have pollution controls. And so all that NOx that was coming out was contributing to the ozone formation. So it took 10 years or more to put scrubbers on a lot of the coal plants. Duke Energy also closed down some coal plants, converted to natural gas, which didn't have the same amount of pollution. And we met the standard eventually. So that contributed to definitely to better health. There's been research studies on that, but also to meeting that federal standard. And the other thing is that cars have gotten cleaner, right? Mm-hmm. So transportation and energy are our two main sources of air pollution. So, you know, Charlotte has grown over the last 15 years. The region has grown, and we're getting more people. And so I'm thinking that geography isn't as much of a role in ozone pollution. That would have been ozone pollution formation. Yeah.
June, did you see like a difference between like 2020 with COVID and people not necessarily commuting downtown compared to like 2019?
Yeah, for sure. In Mecklenburg County, air quality came out with a report about those numbers. Oh my God, it was like a ghost town, right? Ghost town. And so, yeah, they definitely saw a drop. The thing is, Charlotte isn't Beijing. So when Beijing went under, or some of these cities in India, you definitely saw a drop. And so in ozone levels and other kinds of particulates, all air pollution. And so, but, you know, we knew that would be temporary, but it was like a natural worldwide experiment in air pollution and air quality. So it was quite stunning to see. We just need to grow back cleaner. You know, we just need to really push for, Meg will talk to you next time. Well, she'll talk about the UN sustainability, but Sustain Charlotte's one of our partners, and they're all about clean transportation. For obvious reasons, and you know, we just need to do a better job. One of the things the Charlotte Met Climate Leaders was able to do was convince the city of Charlotte to not convert its diesel bus fleet to natural gas, but to electrify it, and they did. We were successful. Now it's going to take a while. But the city of Charlotte has a goal that by 2030, all their buildings and their fleet will be low carbon or carbon neutral. And so, so they really need to get on converting their fleet. So once we can clean up transportation, and we're doing better at cleaning up the grid, with getting more solar, and North Carolina's in a great position for offshore wind now, and we're partnering with other states to do that. I mean, we really can make it in air quality if we can get those transportation and energy sectors cleaned up.
That's good.
Mm-hmm. Well, if there are no more questions, I'm happy to sign off, and you all can do any other business you have. It's up to you.
Well, I'd just like to say, June, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate being a part of Clean Air Carolina as well. there's a lot of things that we're doing in the community, so I'm really happy to be a part of that. And then Concord Wildlife Alliance, the synergy between the two, I think, is wonderful. And so thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Yeah. Call me back anytime, and I promise I will do better at tech, or maybe in real life I'll show up. That'll go a lot better. All right. Thank you all.
Okay, well, thank you so much, June.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye. Is there any other business that we wanted to discuss, Concord Wildlife Alliance?
Nope.
Okay. It was really great to see you all.
Good night.
Okay.
Good night, everyone.
Everybody.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.